After going 0 for 3 in his post-Governor film career, Arnold strips away everything that made him the biggest action star of all time for an indie film that cost less than his on-set trailer. It's time to talk Maggie. Hello friends, and welcome back to Every Arnold Movie Ever, episode 35. If I told you back in 1993 that Arnold Schwarzenegger was starring in a zombie movie, you'd quickly form an image of what that might look like. Probably something like I Am Legend, which Arnold was attached to at one point with Ridley Scott directing. Chances are low you'd imagine an Arnold zombie movie as a heavy father-daughter indie drama using the undead as an allegory for terminal illness. But that's exactly what Maggie is, and honestly, it's the fulfillment of everything I was hoping Arnold would pursue in the later stages of his career. Longtime viewers of this show know Arnold began his acting career by working with Jack Nicholson's acting coach and winning a Golden Globe for a dramatic performance in Stay Hungry in 1976. He's got the chops, and he's always used them to great effect in almost every performance he gives, but he doesn't always get credit for it because the movies happen to also be giant action spectacles. So what happens if you take away all the spectacle and just let Arnold act? We're about to find out. Now, the development of the movie began at NASA. John Scott was a NASA employee who operated a satellite that collects information about black holes, but he also had dreams of being a screenwriter, another type of black hole where you just write into the void and hope somebody reads your script and likes it. So he crafted what would become Maggie and submitted it to a bunch of screenwriting competitions, as well as giving it to his college friend Trevor Kaufman, who was working as an assistant in Hollywood. Kaufman was able to get the script around town, and it eventually landed in the hands of Henry Hobson, a commercial director who designed the Oscar category introductions. He had aspirations to direct a film and thought Maggie would be the perfect vehicle for him, but that's as far as the movie was going. They weren't able to get financing with no stars attached, and it looked like it would just languish in development. That is until Maggie made the Blacklist, which is a list of the hottest unproduced screenplays. Arnold's agent at CAA pushed Arnold to read it, knowing it would force Arnold out of his comfort zone. Hobson also presented Arnold with 200 pages of storyboards to try and convince him to sign on.
When I read it, I knew I had to do it. It is more vulnerable than any role I have played, more real, more emotional. You're used to seeing me play the Ubermensch, the action hero bullets can't seem to hit. In Maggie, I am the everyman, dealing with the most basic concerns, protecting his family.
Yes, it's another everyman role for Arnold, like The Sixth Day or Collateral Damage, but this time, they might actually be right. Hobson had this to say about Arnold.
Arnold comes with an innate audience impression. What people know of Arnold is he's a hero, has a plan, and becomes victorious. That gave the film a shorthand in what the audience would expect. And then we slowly stripped it away so the audience was surprised.
That's actually a complete flip from Ayer's take, who tried to remove everything audiences love about Arnold. This was using the audience's long history with him to help fill in the blanks and let them understand that this was someone capable and noble. As soon as Arnold agreed, the movie found its budget, but just because Arnold was on board didn't mean it would suddenly have unlimited resources. This was a small movie after all, and the total budget ended up being between somewhere like $1.4 and $4 million. It doesn't seem like Arnold took a salary. I couldn't quite find confirmation on that, but if that's the case, it's the first time he's done that since Twins, and never again. The art department only had $8,000 to work with. That's unfathomable for an Arnold movie, especially for somebody whose films in the 90s regularly broke the record for the most expensive movies ever made. So, is Maggie as good as it sounds? Let's find out. Maggie opens with Wade racing to the hospital to find his daughter Maggie.
You shouldn't be in here. This is the shelter for the infected. It's dangerous.
Your daughter is here.
But unlike other zombie movies, the infection takes some time to turn her, between 6 to 8 weeks. It's a slow burn, but there's no cure.
She's probably going to show more signs of aggression. She's going to lose her appetite, and then she's got to get it back again. When that happens, take her to quarantine.
Because of some vague connections,
I'm doing this a favor for Vern.
Wade is able to get Maggie out of the hospital and bring her home until things get bad enough that he has to then take her to quarantine. Quarantine, by the way, seems like it's just a place where they go and then kill them. They use a lot of shorthand from other zombie movies to tell the story. radio broadcasts.
Officials, along with the CDC, have been tight-lipped about a cure or vaccine.
Bad hospital vibes. And wide shots of foreboding locations. But something different is that this world isn't overrun by zombies. It seems mostly manageable, as long as you don't get yourself bitten. Way to fuck that up, Maggie. Wade lives on a farm with his stepson and another daughter. And seems like newer wife, who isn't exactly comfortable with a soon-to-be flesh-eating zombie shuffling around the house, so she sends her kids away.
Why do we have to stay with Aunt Linda?
Because I'm contagious.
Maggie and her stepmom try to make small talk.
Wanna get settled and help me with the dishes?
But it's like, what are they going to talk about? So, turn into a zombie, huh? Yeah, that sucks. Wade explains that he was looking for Maggie for 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
2 weeks!
And we aren't told why she ran away or what she was doing in whatever city she was in, but you can infer that maybe it had something to do with her stepmom. Then we get a lot of sad images, like Maggie swinging on a swing all by herself. She's haunted by what happened. And it leads to her falling off the swing and breaking her finger. Bleh. But instead of going to a doctor, she performs some self-surgery and runs off. In the woods, she's confronted by some zombies, a father-daughter combo who happen to be her neighbors.
Nathan.
No, don't. Please, no.
And Wade is forced to kill the man.
Nathan, please.
It's sad. And though it happens off screen, it's implied that he killed the daughter too. Sad. This is dark shit, baby. Wade feels guilt over killing them even though they're zombies, but the implication is that it's a preview of what he'll have to do to his own daughter. Sad. A woman named Bonnie shows up, and it turns out she's the wife of the father and daughter, and she explains that their daughter turned and the father locked himself in there with her, but Bonnie didn't have the heart to kill them, and that's when they escaped. Because of that, she gets hauled off by the cops, and it's another sign of the consequences Wade will face if he doesn't do what must be done. Wade then goes to his neighbor's house, and it's terrifying. All this stuff on the walls. It's just so sad. So sad, in fact, that Arnold cries. A single tear. There it is. Look at that tear. An Arnold tear. Then Maggie goes back to the doctor, and that's sad.
James, Carrie, get over here.
We're watching her deteriorate before our very eyes, and it's clear the doc isn't telling her the full story.
Lungs are clear. Scans show that the asthma has receded already, and your heartbeat is abnormally strong. That's a good sign.
But she's smart enough to know. Wade smokes a cig and has a chat with the doc, who lays out his options. And every option is sad.
1, take her to quarantine. Option 2, we give her the cocktail they'd give her in quarantine. Reports say that it's painful. Extremely.
What's option 3?
Make it quick.
Just a parade of sadness in this movie. The filmmakers sense that too, so they give us a nice moment with Wade and Maggie in the truck.
Found my baby on my knee, as sweet as it can be, my little Maggie.
Followed by another nice moment at home.
Caroline, the food is delicious.
The stove shot.
And then another nice moment fixing the truck, where we learn more about Maggie's mom.
There was this one book that I read to you over and over. It was called A Daisy's Journey. And your mother loved those flowers.
Yeah, they're stringing together some nice moments here. We also keep cutting back to this fox roaming the woods, looking delicious. And then Maggie's friend Allie takes her out to hang with their friends. And you know what? I think it's cool that her friends are cool with her and her other friend who's been bitten. They're just like, hey, yeah, whatever. You're gonna be a zombie, but like, let's chill. I got some eerie pandemic vibes from this scene.
I don't get why they're opening up the school so soon.
Gotta get back to normal.
Normal? What's normal about all of this?
And man, these kids are going through some shit. Like, okay, yeah, sure, I was bullied in high school, but like, I never found maggots on my decaying arm. This guy Trent gets a ton of dialogue that feels like it should have come from Maggie, since she's our anchor in the scene.
What should my dad do to me? Quarantine? Do you know what it's like there? You know what I would do to me? I'd put a gun right here.
But a lot of her stuff is internal, and then we get something I'm not sure I've seen since Dead Alive. A zombie makeout sesh. Allie drops Maggie off afterwards, and you get the sense that they're saying their goodbyes.
Hey, wait. I love you, okay?
And Maggie takes another turn.
Do you smell that? No. Are you sure it smells like food?
But it turns out it was just her stepmom. Caroline realizes this and arms herself the next time because she knows what has to be done. Maggie then gets a call from her zombie boyfriend, whose dad is sending him to quarantine, and it's all just a preview for what lies ahead for Maggie.
Please? Dad, please!
She then hears that fox and decides to go shoot it, but instead she finds it caught in a trap. And you just know she's gonna eat that fox as a snack.
I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop.
Yep, she sure did. That freaks Caroline out, and there's this great shot of Caroline on the stairs and Wade with Maggie that perfectly encapsulates their states of mind. He isn't willing to let her go yet. Then we get an attempt at an iconic shot of Maggie in the bath, and then Wade goes to check the damage of the fox. But it turns out Maggie only nibbled on it. It's not dead. Great. Another innocent thing Wade has to kill to remind us he'll have to do the same thing to his daughter. Well, the fox feast is enough for Caroline, who's taken off. Wade's maybe hanging on because he lost his wife early, maybe because, like any parent, he recognizes this is an impossible choice. It's never said out loud, but it's all very heartbreaking. The cops do a welfare check that gets violent.
You're not gonna take her in.
Maggie's able to buy a little more time.
Maggie, you tell me you're doing okay and we'll leave, all right?
I'm all right.
And we are hurtling towards our inevitable conclusion. But before we do, Wade takes Maggie out to see her mother's garden where daisies are growing. He basically says no one thought daisies would grow here, but they did, and it's clearly his way of saying, like, maybe there's another way out of this. There's gotta be another way. But Maggie knows better.
You have to promise me that you'll do it. You have to do it.
Okay, baby.
The doc returns with a drug cocktail that will kill Maggie, but says it's so painful, and it's what they give people in quarantine, that Wade should just use a gun instead. Sad! Maggie's on the phone saying goodbye to her brother and sister, but then we find out...
I just wanted to call to say that I love you guys.
There's no one on the phone. And it's just so sad. Wade grabs his gun and takes a seat. He knows the time is coming. And in the morning, it appears Maggie has turned. She shuffles towards Wade, bends down. We see Wade grip his gun even though his eyes are closed, and... She gives him a little zombie smooch. That was nice of her. But Wade knows it's time. When she walks out of the room, he grabs a shotgun shell, and he seems ready to finally accept both their fates. But instead... Maggie takes the decision out of his hands. And yes, it's very sad, and yes, that's Maggie. Reviews for Maggie were above average, with most praising Arnold's dramatic turn. There were some complaints that the movie felt thin and a little too low-key, but overall critics were generous towards the low-budget indie. Maggie even premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival. You can't say that for many or any Arnold movies. It was released in theaters on May 8th, 2015 in limited release, only 79 screens, and it landed in 30th place. Was only able to muster $131,000. Never expanded wide after that, and the following week dropped down to 17 theaters, making a total of $5,222. It ended its domestic run with a paltry $187,000 and an international take of $1.4 million for a total of $1.66 million. Obviously, this is Arnold's lowest take, but it's not really fair to compare it to the likes of Terminator 2 and True Lies. The budget and the risk were low, and the opportunity for Arnold to return to drama was worth it. I love his performance in this movie. It's similar to Sabotage and The Last Stand in some ways, choosing close-ups over exposition to tell the story, but it's so much more effective because of the circumstances. You're watching a man come to grips with the unthinkable, racked with guilt and agonizing over what has to be done. It's a heart-rending situation that can only have one outcome, and Arnold bears the full weight of it. He even cries a single tear. Now, it's not the first time he's cried on camera. Let's not forget Junior. But obviously that was played for comedy, and this is a pitch-black indie drama. As a zombie movie, mostly sticks to the regular rules and visual cues, lots of wide shots of bleak landscape, and where it separates itself, though, is that turning from human to zombie takes weeks. It's a really interesting twist, and they treat it less as a world-ending event and more of a manageable pandemic. There's also very little action in this movie. They give us one minor jump scare very early, and there's maybe, 7 zombies total in the whole thing. The moments Wade confronts the zombies are not action-driven, they're profound and character-driven, particularly when he has to kill the father and daughter, because it echoes what he'll have to do to his own daughter. This is a movie that's so easy to respect. A small budget from a first-time writer that took years to get to the big screen. It was a work of passion and love. It has one cool spin on the zombie genre, and it sets up this no-win situation for its characters. I do wish the story wasn't told in such a straight line. For the majority of the runtime, there are no twists or complications that change where we think the movie is going. There's no hope for Maggie, and no avoiding that her dad will at some point have to accept that he has to kill her. It marches joylessly towards its inevitable end with no hope in sight, just like life itself. But with slightly more zombie smooching. But then, at the very last second, whoever's drawing that straight line sneezes, and it takes the movie's biggest choice out of Wade's hand. The choice the movie's been building to for 90 minutes. So I know I'm kind of complaining about it being a straight line, but if you're gonna give me the straight line, you gotta finish that line. We've watched Wade come to terms with what he has to do. He even picks up the shotgun shell, an indication that he's finally ready. And then we don't get it. I get that Maggie gives him the noble way out. He won't have to live with the guilt of shooting his own daughter. But it seems like they were trying to have it both ways, show that he would have done it if he had to, but having Maggie save him from having to actually do it. But I don't know. If you're setting out to break my heart, then stomp on it. The story is told from Wade's point of view, but we never even see his reaction to Maggie's choice. It feels lacking. I don't know. If the movie were told more from Maggie's point of view, this ending would have crushed me. It would have felt earned. If her dad was a background character, she would see grappling with this from a distance. We would be inside her head instead of her dad's and understand the pain and tragedy and suffering she was experiencing. To me, she feels like the distant character, someone we never truly get to know. I wish they would have given her the boyfriend's monologue so we could get a glimpse into how she was feeling about what was happening to her. I do think Abigail Breslin is very good in this, but the material doesn't match her performance. So yeah, the ending may not stick the landing, but Maggie is a must-watch for Arnold fans who want to see him in a different light, and even for those who scoff that he can't act. It's bleak, unrelenting, and not entirely successful, but it contains one of the best performances of Arnold's career. All right, let's get to the stats. Acting chops, 8. It is awesome to see Arnold attempt a dramatic role. If he was given a proper payoff to all the anguish he suffered, this would have been a 9. Kill count, 3. Okay, normally the undead wouldn't count, but the zombies in this movie are very clearly infected humans who are still alive when they turn. So there you go, 3 more for a total of 731. Catchphrase. This is the hardest one yet. I think I just have to give it to the single tier. And here are your updated Every Arnold Movie Ever rankings. 31 to 20 are the same. 19 Sabotage, 18 End of Days, 17 Jingle All the Way, 16 Maggie, and I know it looks weird below Conan the Destroyer, but C the D has a higher rewatchability factor. This is not a movie you will be popping in very often. And 14 through number 1 are the same. Next up, we finally made it to the movie I've been dreading covering for 2 whole years. Part of me hoped I'd just lose interest and never make it this far, but there's no turning back now. In this case, my future is set, and it's finally time for Terminator Genisys.